The White Flag by username Traz. His heart was pounding as he tried to figure out the best way to do it. It needed to be painless. Life had tortured him enough. He didn't need any additional suffering. Carbon monoxide was the best option available as far as research could tell. He would just go to sleep and never wake up again. It sounded like a fairy tale, closing your eyes and never having to open them again, skipping all goodbyes and just slipping away. It sounded glorious. At 30, he felt he had lived long enough to know if he wanted to continue doing it. He didn't. As he paced around the small space around his bedroom, not his, just the allocated section offered, everything felt like it had been allocated to him. He had dreamt of the day he would make enough money to actually call something of his own. That day hadn't come, and it felt like it never would. Things were only getting harder, more complicated, and more painful. He wondered if he could have done better. He probably could have. He probably should have, but he hadn't, and now there was nothing to be proud of. After 30 years of struggling, there was nothing. Just nothing. He remembered the days of hope and laughed bitterly at his naivety. He thought he was going to make something of his life. When he was younger, he'd actually thought he would change the world. But he didn't even manage to change himself. He was useless, nothing to write home about. The best thing he could do was end it all. Stop being a burden. No longer would people have to consider him and his needs. He would be gone and people would be better off. He smiled at the thought. Potential non-existence offered a sense of peace in these turbulent times. He wondered how long people would remember him before they moved on. Probably a week at most. Those who were closer to him might make it to a month, but no more. He was not worth more than 30 days. He chuckled inwardly at the thought. 3 decades summed up in about 4 weeks. How messed up was that? It didn't matter anymore. He needed to do himself and everyone else a favour. It was time to leave. Pills looked like the best option since he couldn't get a Jyco anytime soon. He wanted to do it alone, to give himself enough time to let it go without interruption. He imagined he would smile at the end. His life probably wouldn't flash before his eyes. But he would think of people. The girls he had loved, the children he had sired and disappointed with his inability to make something of himself. His family, those people who had tried, they would be sad for a while, but deep down he knew they would also be relieved. They would never admit it to themselves, but that was okay. Waking up, he walked to the cabinet where the pain medication was stored. He smiled at his younger cousin, who looked up at him from his phone. Looking around to ensure no one was watching, he quickly slipped 2 bottles into his pocket. He didn't want to take any chances. 2 full bottles would definitely do the job. He had to wait though. He didn't know how he would react to the overdose, and if things became too noisy, it would attract attention. If someone successfully put a stop to his plans, things would only get much worse. He shuddered at the thought of being put on suicide watch. If mankind was honest, they would gather around him and celebrate his conquest. They didn't want him here, and he didn't want to be here. It was the best for everyone. He didn't do anything to commemorate the occasion or enjoy his last few moments. He just sat in his room, the room, and browsed the internet. Mostly football stuff. He really hoped Arsenal would do better in the future. If he became a ghost, he would definitely hang around for a few more years to see if they take the league. He would also haunt the shit out of anyone messing with those he cared about. The laugh that came out then might have repressed a cry of desperation. Maybe there were a few things he would miss after all. No matter. When the time came, it was almost 2 a.m. Everyone was finally asleep. He had brought a quarter of vodka to down the pills. He was hoping the alcohol would counter any potential pain that might come from the ingestion process. The plan was to drink enough of it to forget what was going on before the pills took effect. That way, any pain would just have to wait until he's dead. A brilliant solution, really. Smiling, he slowly swallowed the contents of the bottles in between gulps of vodka and extreme grimaces. When it was done, he could slowly feel the alcohol taking effect. He lay back on his bed with his phone and tried to look for a song he would like to go out to. Turns out, he didn't care. Everything sounded great. He never left a note. There was nothing left to say. Now, I've just read that story. I've done recording it. That was really hard for me to read. Because of this subject matter, I will be putting in the bottom of the description some suicide prevention hotlines. Because if you're feeling like the character in this story, you are not alone. There are people out there who are willing to listen to you. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Just, oh dear. Yeah, don't kill yourself. You're worth a lot more than whatever you're going through, I guess.